everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to design think Christmas. I got thinking about this basically because I think that everybody has challenges around Christmas. It doesn't really matter right now whether that challenge is how am I going to deal with my family, with my parents or my kids? How am I going to afford all the Christmas presents? What am I going to get people for Christmas? All of those things could be challenges. So how would we approach Christmas as a design problem? Well, the first thing we would do is empathize. So empathize and research is the first stage of design thinking. And here you really want to understand what's going on with yourself, what your issues are, what's going on with other members of the family or people who will be interacting in this thing called Christmas. What are existing examples of solutions or ways of doing things that might be interesting? What are other pieces of research that might be things like help you to put it into perspective, such as knowing that not everybody has a perfect Christmas, even though it looks like they do. So there's lots of things to take into consideration in this part. It's kind of like a zooming out and seeing what's on the table here, what are we dealing with? And the next phase is to define the problem. What is the real issue or issues that you are dealing with in your family? And these don't have to be negative, as I said. They could be positive problems that we want to solve. And the idea here is to build off some of the things that you noticed or you observed in the first phase, where you were empathizing, you were trying to understand what different people wanted or how we might make this thing called Christmas work. So from there, you might have some small snippets of ideas that kind of shine to you as something a little bit different from the way you were thinking before. In design thinking, we would call these insights. And insights are great because they allow us to then formulate some questions which are very useful for ideation. And I love having these questions when I run design thinking workshops. If you get to these questions and they're based on real true insights, you know that the innovation that comes from it, no matter how badly the ideation phase goes, will be a good innovation because it's all about properly defining the problem. And the way that we phrase the problem is, how might we? So if you can define 4 different how might we phases, this is going to be great. How might we prepare the dinner so it's ready at 3 p.m. when we're out all morning? I don't know what your issues might be. How might we make sure that everybody gets a present without spending more than 100 euros? These are kind of specific problems that you're going to work with, and they are going to form the basis of the next phase. The next phase is all about ideation, coming up with as many ideas as possible. And there are different ways you might do this, whether you're working on your own to come up with ideas or working with other members of your family. Now, I would suggest that you do this with other members of your family, especially if you've spoken to them in the empathize phase, because people love to be involved and also they'll be interested in creating this better Christmas or different Christmas. So you're going to ask them to be involved in this brainstorming. And sometimes when we think of a brainstorming, we just think of loads of post-it notes and trying to get lots of ideas, and that can be it. And that's one of the ways you could start. It's an easy way to start. So if you have post-it notes, get a load of post-it notes and have people work on those 4 different ideas that you define, those 4 questions. How might we? How might we? How might we? Put them on a big piece of paper and have everybody stick their ideas, their post-its of solutions, 1 idea per post-it on those big pieces of paper. That's really simple. Once you've got that, you're going to bring all of the ideas together into kind of groups, which is called Affinity Mapping, and you've got these different groups of solutions. Then what you can do is to take a normal piece of A4 and put each of these solutions at the top of that A4. And you might remember this kind of thing. It certainly reminds me of a type of story that we would write together in school, where you fold over the bit of paper. So you read the first bit of paper, then you add a little bit of more of the story onto it, and then you fold over the one at the top so it kind of carries on. Anyway, this is called brainwriting. It's about building up different ideas, building off the existing ideas and saying yes and. It's often easier to do. Depending on your family, you might have some people who are quite shouty and loud and some people who are quite quiet. And if that's the case, this is a great way of making sure that everyone can be involved because everybody is quietly building on that first idea. So one by one, you're just adding on top of those original ideas. And then once you've got these ideas, you can talk about them and select the ideas. There are lots of ways of selecting ideas in design thinking, but I'm thinking that you probably can do this yourselves without having to use any kind of sticky kind of, stickers and things and selection like this. Although that's also an option, sort of really saying, okay, we've got 2 ideas, now vote on those ideas. Also involves everybody, also tries to keep it a little bit democratic. Anyway, so there we've got those 3 phases. The other 2 phases, which in design thinking would be prototyping and testing, well, prototyping is great if you've been starting to think about, okay, well, we might do some new cookery recipes, or we might develop a new way of giving gifts. You can start trying that out, see how it works just within your small family group, see if that's starting to work, and that will test it out before the big day. And the testing, the final test, is going to be Christmas. And just remember that for most of us, Christmas is something that comes back again and again and again. So, if it doesn't quite work out this year because your innovations fell a little bit flat on their faces, well, maybe next year it will be better. And there we go, that's how I would design think Christmas. Now, let me know how you do with this because I'll be interested to know. Bye for now.